Hi, you're watching Miss Hobbs Teaches Biology. In today's episode, you are going to be learning all about binary fission, meiosis, and mitosis. Welcome to another episode of Miss Hobbs Teaches. My name's Miss Hobbs. I am a Victorian science, STEM, business and agriculture teacher, and all my videos are Victorian curriculum aligned. Okay, let's kick it off. Let's start talking about bacterial cell division. So the very first thing you need to understand, and this is the fundamental basis of biology, and if you don't understand it, the link to the other video will be somewhere here. And this is the thing, right? Everything's made up of cells, right from bacteria to fungi, right through to you, myself, and your friend, and the trees and everything, okay? Everything is built of or made up of cells, right? And cells, in order to be able to grow, need to divide, okay? So cells can survive, we need to see cellular division. So when we are talking about bacteria, this is a type of unicellular organism. Now, uni meaning one and cellular meaning cell. So it's a type of one cell organism, okay? Now, for something like bacteria, they need division to be able to survive. So bacteria, they use cellular division to produce offspring, okay? That's how they reproduce, is through dividing. Now, how bacteria are able to divide is literally by splitting themselves in half. And we're going to talk about this process a little bit more. So when a bacteria cell splits itself in half, the two new cells that we have, so we've gone from one cell to two cells, are identical to each other. And we call them clones, okay? Because they're identical. Now, I said that bacteria divide by splitting into two. This is what we call in biology binary fission. Okay, so remembering back to our first cellular video when we were talking about prokaryotic cells and about how they don't have DNA in a nucleus like they do in eukaryotic cells. Now, because they don't have their DNA in the nucleus, it means that it's much easier for us to split, and it means that binary fission is easy, is a simpler process than something like meiosis or mitosis, which we're going to talk about later, okay? But right now, binary fission, and that's us splitting our two cells. The very first thing we have to do, because they're going to be clones, right? We're going to have from 1 to 2, and they're going to be clones, which means identical. The very first thing that we're going to do, or that our cell is going to do, is it's going to copy the DNA, okay? So that each new cell gets a full copy of the genetic material from the parent cell. So we've got our parent cell here. We're going to copy the DNA, so these two are the same. Now, after copying the DNA, so we'll have our original parent cell here that's now going to have two DNAs. It's going to grow and just get bigger and bigger, and the two copies of the DNA are going to move to opposite ends of the cell, okay? What happens next is the cytoplasm and cell membrane are going to divide down the middle, splitting the original cell into two new cells. Now, these two new cells that we have, okay, that we split, the DNA went to either end and then they split off. These two new cells that we have are identical to that original parent cell. Okay, so that is binary fission. Let's break it down, let's recap it into 4 steps, okay? The very first step is the circular DNA, which is free. It's not in a nucleus. It's just chilling there, okay? That free circular DNA is copied, okay? We have 2 copies in our cell, okay? 2 full copies of DNA. Step number 1. Step number 2 is that our cell grows, okay? Our cell grows, and when our cell grows in step number 2, those 2 copies of DNA move to either end. This step 3 is that our cell divides into 2. And our 4th step is that we now have 2 genetically identical cells to the original cell. So that's binary fission. It's 4 steps. It's make DNA, move the DNA to either end and grow. Split, now we have 2 cells instead of 1. How cool is that? Isn't that just amazing? That through binary fission, even the simplest of single-celled organisms can grow and can divide. And those two that we've got, okay, because they have the same DNA, they are now clones. It's unbelievable. Okay, awesome. Now that we've got that down, we are going to move on to what we like to call mitosis and meiosis. Okay, now we know that everything starts from one cell. And one cell can then become two cells, and two cells can become four cells, and so on, okay? Which is really cool. Now, every single person started up as one single cell. And by the time you became, as you are today, you've got approximately 37 trillion cells, okay? And that is all thanks to cellular division. So that's a pretty cool fun fact to tell your family. Okay, so just like we talked about our single cell bacteria, they need cell to reproduce and grow. We need cells to be able to divide so that we can grow and develop. So let's take your bone, for example. It's really important that your bone cells multiply through division so your bone can grow nice, big, and strong, all right? So division allows for growth and development. The other thing that cellular division is really important for in our body is repairing, okay? If you fall over and graze your knee, it's really important that those skin cells can divide. So then your knee graze heals up really quickly. So this whole concept of cellular division underpins how miraculous the human body is and that we can repair ourselves, which is really, really cool. Now, when we are talking about this growth and repair, so say you've grazed your knee and the skin cells are going to repair it, this process is called mitosis. Now, the cells produced in mitosis, like binary fission, are identical to their parent cells. And this is really an important thing for mitosis because if you are repairing skin cells, you want those cells to be exactly the same. So, in mitosis, it's a little bit different because our DNA is contained in the nucleus. So the very first thing that our cell does is it condenses the DNA into these things called chromosomes. And what you need to know is that our chromosomes keep our DNA really organized in the division. So we've organized our DNA into what we like to call chromosomes. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to dissolve the nucleus, because remember, the nucleus is where our DNA currently is. So we've organized our DNA into chromosomes and now we dissolve our nucleus. Now, when we dissolve our nucleus, it means that our cell can drag the copies of the chromosomes to opposite sides of the cell. So this means we now have two full copies of the DNA which is in our cell. And our cell can then split into two, creating two new identical cells, each with one copy of the DNA. Okay, so the key steps in mitosis are, firstly, that our DNA is copied, okay? We need to copy our DNA. Secondly, we organize our DNA into chromosomes, okay? This keeps it all really neat and tidy during our division. Then we dissolve the nucleus, okay? The nucleus is where our DNA is being kept, and we need to dissolve it so it can move to either end of the cell, okay? So now our chromosomes, or our genetic information, moves to either end of the cell. Then number 4, our cell is allowed to or can divide into two. And number 5, we have two new cells which are genetically identical to the first cell, which is pretty cool. So mitosis, that's how come when, you fall over, you graze your knee, you come off your scooter, maybe you're doing a new scooter trick or a skateboarding trick, you come off, right? That is how your graze gets to heal. It's through mitosis. It's because we first copy our DNA, we sort our DNA, it separates into two by going to either end, happy, and then that allows for two new cells, which are identical. And that means our skin cells can grow and repair. Okay, we are now going to move on. We said that we needed cell division for growth and development. Well, we also need cell division for reproduction, called meiosis, okay? So, sex cells in your body, like eggs or sperm, are the only cells which don't undergo mitosis, and instead they undergo this process called meiosis. Now, meiosis is another type of cell division, and it produces 4 cells that have half the amount of DNA as our original cell. So what this means is that when an egg cell and a sperm cell can combine to form a new cell, we have the correct amount of DNA, which is really important for healthy organism carriage, okay? So the new cell is going to be different from both of those cells because it's going to contain DNA or genetic material from both of the other 2 cells. So what you need to know is that mitosis is used for growth and repair. And in mitosis, the types of cells produced are identical, just like in binary fission, okay? But in meiosis, which is used for reproduction, the types of cells produced are different to the parent cell, and it allows for a new organism to be created. Okay, let's just summarize. So the first thing that we talked about was binary fission. Binary fission is how bacteria are able to divide into 2 cells from an original parent cell, and they become clones because they have the exact same genetic material. And this is needed for all bacterial functions. The second thing that we talked about was mitosis. Now, mitosis is needed for growth and development, and we need mitosis to replicate the cells and make them the same as the previous ones because we are using them to help repair wounds and all of those sorts of things in our body, which is really, really cool. And we see there the DNA copied, and then we see the dissolving of the nucleus so we can then split into 2 cells. The very last thing we talked about was meiosis, and meiosis is needed for reproduction. And here we have the sex cells of the egg and the sperm, and they allow for the combination of a new cell, which is different, okay, to the parent cell. Unlike the other 2, it's different to the parent cell, which allows for a new organism. Thanks for watching Miss Hobbs Teaches. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. If you'd like another video in this series, please comment down below which video you would like. Thanks.